Thank you for coming. Thank you. So after this long working day, and I believe it's going to be an inspiring talk today. So I hope everyone will get inspired. And we're very, very thrilled to be able to host Dr. Helen Wright, as well as Professor Potion Low here at the Dalton. Both are very, very experienced and renowned educators and from different continents. Dr. Wright is from UK and Professor Low from USA. And I want to do some brief introduction. So Dr. Wright is a leading international educationalist who holds a master's degree in language from University of Oxford and a doctorate of education from University of Exeter. And Dr. Wright has headed leading schools in UK and Australia, including a Dalton School, and was awarded with Tatler Best Head of a Public School in 2010 and 2011. She now extends her passion into the international education development and leadership coaching. So she is also a well-known speaker at the various national and international conferences on leading-edge educational issues. Dr. Wright is an insightful, astute, and dynamic non-executive director and board advisor on a number of boards and foundations in UK and abroad, including Dalton Foundation in Hong Kong. Her latest book, The Globally Competent School, was published in 2019. And Dr. Potion Low is a Carnegie Mellon math professor, and he is a social entrepreneur and inventor. So he was a national coach of a USA International Mathematical Olympiad team for a decade, which ranked #1 4 times. He's an IMO silver medalist and received the USA Presidential Early Career Award for scientists and engineers. His public lecture reached tens of thousands of people in 100+ cities annually. He featured in or co-created video totaling over 24 million YouTube views. So round of applause to welcome our two guests of honors. To get started, just a very brief introduction of myself. I'm Zhu Wenhong, Vice Principal of Dalton School Hong Kong. And Dalton School provides a bilingual education experience with an emphasis on Chinese values. And we want to equip our students with the skills and mindsets needed to strive in the 21st century and make the meaningful impact on the new world powered with AI. So we understand and embracing AI in education requires deliberate focus and strategic planning. And it is essential that we work together to uncover the opportunities and the implications that AI presents for equitable integration into our educational systems. So by engaging in a conversation like the one we are going to have today, we can shed a light on the transformative power of AI in education and learning. So let's kick off our discussion today and with open minds and a commitment to explore the endless possibilities that AI offers and shape the future of education. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a pleasure to be here and to see many of you again, actually. And how we've conceived of this evening is as a conversation. That's why we're sitting here on the sofa. And I do have some questions that I'm going to ask Professor Low, but we're also going to talk a bit about Dalton, talk about what we're doing. I've got a couple of reflections on what we first heard. We are going to hear about AI, and we're going to hear about more than AI. And the other thing that I was reflecting on as we were hearing our bios and listening to what we've done and what we've achieved in the world so far is that actually what matters is what we, what you, and what our children are going to achieve. We need to be writing future bios. Future, what is it we're actually going to do now? Because that's what education is all about. So yes, we've done lots of amazing stuff, but we're going to do a lot more. And we're going to start tonight. That's what we're going to talk about. Now, one of the things that we talk about a lot at the Dalton board is what is the future going to be like? What is the world of work going to be like? Because that's what we're trying to, and we will be, creating our whole education system around. And certainly it's what we're creating Dalton as a school around, the future of the world. So I know, Professor Lowe, that you've got some strong opinions on what the future of the world of work in particular will be like and what we should be preparing our children for. So go for it. Tell us.
Wow. Okay, well, if you want me to tell you, I can tell you what I think. But I can also share with you what some experts think. Would you like that? I think that might be the way to go.
Absolutely.
Because,
yes.
So, I'm also wondering what's the most efficient way to do this. Because I could actually show you a quote on a computer. Should I do something like that? Or do you want to just talk?
Tell us.
Tell it. Okay,
yes,
I'll tell it.
We all know that technology is wonderful, and then at times it lets us down.
Okay,
so,
that
yes,
sounds good. That's no problem.
The power of the human brain goes beyond it.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, so this particular passage I'm quoting from is from a person named Dario Amodii. I happen to know him because the two of us went to college together. In fact, we lived in the same dormitory building. He eventually went on to become the vice president of research for a company called OpenAI, during which he led the team that developed GPT-2 and GPT-3. ChatGPT was GPT 3.5, so this is the guts of ChatGPT, which changed the world. He eventually started his own company. He split from OpenAI because he wanted to make sure that AI would take care of people. This is actually quite interesting. And so he started his own company called Anthropic, which makes the model which is called Claude. His company is today worth $60 billion. So he's doing okay. But in any case, he made some predictions. And I say this, I want to quote his predictions because I've known him for a long time. The guy's sharp, and he's good at predicting. He predicted that within the next 1, 2, or 3 years, you'll be able to have AI employees that can function better than any virtual employee that you can hire. Virtual employee is somebody who works remotely from home by a video call. The interesting thing about a video call employee is you may know that AI today can already generate videos. You know this, right? There's something called Sora. But we're not very far away from the AI being able to answer you in the form of a person that appears on a video call, which is saying some very, very reasonable things and is actually more functional than most people in the world. Also, those AIs that he's predicting, those AIs will be able to control mice and keyboards, control machines, because actually when you do a virtual call with someone, you could tell the other person, please, like, turn on to this, turn on to that. But the bottom line is that the entire world of virtual work might be superseded, not just might be, will likely be superseded by machines. Actually, a lot of work that we do can also be done virtually. That happened during the pandemic.
We remember that, yes.
We remember that, right? And so the fact that you could have AIs start to do all of this is slightly frightening, because this means that a lot of the work, if the work could be done virtually, a lot of it can be done. In fact, actually, the AIs today can even solve hard problems. There was a whole question of creativity. AIs today can also create their own solutions. I've asked DeepSeek the questions from my university class, my exams, my hard exam questions. It can do them. OpenAI can also, of course, right? But the point is that all of these very hard things that require creativity, the AI can already do. So when you think about the whole landscape, it's going to be one where if a person's goal was to be good at doing things, well, you might just be able to get a cheaper, more efficient AI to do that.
And more consistent as well.
And more consistent. And they'll even do it at night. So I'm actually writing a book right now. And so I'll tell you, this is a pain for English teachers, but AI is good at writing. So, in fact, a common thing to do now is if you want a first round editor, in fact, a way to do that is with AI. So I actually, about 4 or 5 or 6 days ago, I was using AI as the editor for my book. I sent it about 100 pages. Now, I sent it 100 pages at 3 a.m. I cannot ask a normal person to work at 3 a.m. I don't know why I was working at 3 a.m., but that's a separate story. But at 3 a.m., I wanted an answer. And I just sent it all into the AI. And in 5 minutes, it read 100 pages of text. That's actually the speed. The AI today can read 20,000 words per minute. That's actually the rate limit for the Anthropic Claude model, which I was using, and which I was specifically using as my editor for the book I'm writing. Just think about it. It can read 20,000 words a minute, 100 pages, got sucked in and processed in 5 minutes. I paid $1, US dollar, $1. I'm sharing this perspective because I'm also a CEO of a social enterprise. I don't only think about things as an educator. I also hire people. And that night at 3 a.m., I made the decision between handing it off to a human being or asking the AI. The AI did it in 5 minutes for $1. It's worth knowing these things because a lot of people, unless you're the CEO or unless you're making decisions on staffing, you don't know how much all of these things cost. I strongly recommend to you to open the web pages to go and find out how much exactly does it cost to send information into AI on industrial scale. How much do you have to pay? And also, how many words per minute does it process? I looked up to how many words a minute it processes because when I pressed enter, it didn't give me any feedback. And then I was not sure if I'd have to stay up 5 hours, 10 hours a day before. I have my computer open. I wanted to know if I'm able to close my computer soon. And I looked up the rate limit, and it said it will read 20,000 words a minute. I have 60,000 words. No problem. 5 minutes later, it's done.
So the world is going to change, undeniably.
Completely.
Yes,
yeah. Basically, what I just outlined here is you cannot design yourself to be you should not aim for the goal of being best at doing, not just best, but just doing a task. You have to somehow be more. What does that even mean?
So that's the question. What is more? And also, how do we ensure that we prepare for that more? Because you talked about it being the first round editor, but there are second round editors and third round editors. And there's also the power of the human thought that goes into that. And in a sense, the first thing that we need to be really aware of is that we need to be aware of it. And our children need to be aware of this. And as adults and parents, we need to be aware of this. Now, there's a fine balance between being scared of something and actually ready to embrace the future. But as I said at the very beginning, what matters with our bios is not what we've done, but what we will do, what we're going to do with this. But before we go to that, if we imagine that a school should be preparing for the future, and we've just seen a glimpse into that future, and that's absolutely what we are driven by here at Dalton, what are you actually seeing in schools? Now, I know a secret about you, and that's that actually sometimes, despite all the things you're doing, the wonderful things that he's doing, going around the world, and speaking to different schools, working online, helping enthuse them about maths. Sometimes you go into schools in disguise, don't you? Yes, tell us about that.
Sure. So I actually like to think about education by having a front row seat on what it is to teach. Today, I taught 2 classes, but you introduced them as master classes. You introduced me with my background and whatever.
Your bio, yes.
Bio, yeah. But there are some times when I go into schools where what I've agreed with the principal is that I just go into a regular classroom with about 20 kids, and they tell the classroom, you have a supply teacher today, you have a substitute teacher. His name is Mr. Poe. That's the entire introduction. So then I go in and I just start teaching a math class. I just ask them, what have you been learning? This is how I get an idea of what normal kids know and how they think. I know that the undercover works because on 2 occasions recently in different cities, the students asked me if I had graduated from university yet. So this is important though, because if the kids think of you as something, they will act in a certain way. If they think of you as the supply teacher, I don't know how your culture is here in Hong Kong, but in different parts of the world, if they see you as the supply teacher, oh boy, you're in for it. They know they can do anything with you.
And what do you see when you go into schools? When you see what schools are doing, are they preparing for the future of the world of work that we see?
What I see in many schools is that the teachers are often there because they love students, they love teaching. Quite often they absolutely love their subject. And also quite often what they do is constrained by the requirements of a system that's actually above the school. It's often the system of the state or the city or whatever. So I find this very interesting because that means that there is then the potential to do much more. You see, because actually what we did today in Dalton is we did a very creative class where we didn't follow the curriculum. We actually threw the kids into a situation where they had to think and brainstorm, which is not part of the standard curriculum. And so I don't actually fault any schools or any teachers for not doing this all the time because there are controls, although it's very interesting. The innovative schools are often trying to figure out how to weave in some elements of putting kids in situations where they don't know what to do. Let me just summarize what we actually did here. Oh, the board is gone, but no worries, I'll tell you. One of the questions that we worked on with all of these students is we discussed the question of why the opposite sides of a die add up to 7. You know, like the 6-sided die, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is designed in a way where 1 and 6 are opposite sides of each other, 2 and 5 are opposite sides of each other, and 3 and 4 are opposite sides of each other. We spent 45 minutes playing games with some dice that were wrong until at some point, and we discussed a lot. We spent the whole time getting ideas from different kids. This was primary 3, primary 4s. I think, no, 4 and 5, primary 4 and 5, and occasional primary 3s, right, inside the room. But at some point, one of the kids made a aha moment and realized, oh wow, if the die is designed in this strange way, because I brought some weird dice on purpose to play with, where 1 was opposite of 2. One kid over there said, oh, if the die has 1 here and 2 there, I can roll the die this way and only get 3, 4, 5, and 6. That is not an obvious observation at all. By the way, that's related to three-dimensional geometry. But I'm just explaining, we put the kids into this thinking. Now, what I've observed is many schools don't have the ability to do that because of the constraints from above. I just brought this up because actually if we want to update things in schools, we also have to update the constraints from above. And that's a deep question.
And indeed the constraints from universities as well, which often depend on those systems. Because I know you've got very strong views on those as well. Because what you're describing there is creating space within the school curriculum in order to be able to focus on the process of learning. Because if you imagine the way you've just described that, the child having the aha moment, it's not the aha moment that matters. It's not the outcome that matters. It's the process of thinking that gets to the aha moment that really matters. And that's what we need to honor in schools. And it's not it's not something that's obvious. It's not something you could say, well, here's a tick in a box because of that. And it's something we have to trust our educators to do, to be able to focus on that. But our role as a school, so here at Dalton, is to create that space to enable that to happen. So I mentioned universities there, and universities often being highly dependent on grades and outcomes, and obviously here at Dalton we'll make sure that the children coming through will have the sufficient grades, but they'll also have had the space to get there. How do we deal with universities and their expectations? And there are universities which are now focusing more on allowing portfolio applications, different applications. But how do we change universities so we change the system?
Yeah, that's one reason I'm writing a book, to go push this out. Because I also work at a university. Actually, because of the work I do, there's some programs that I run that are actually at the high school level. And because of that, I am in touch with multiple US university admission offices. I should say that the US university admissions and the UK admissions and the Australian admissions have very different styles. And the Hong Kong is also very different. Obviously, the mainland Chinese university admission system, you guys know, is primarily based on an exam, right? And that similar things are true in India. But in the United States of America, they're famously not based on exams. In fact, there was even a time period where the SAT was optional. But in fact, if you look carefully at the SAT mathematics exam, I would expect that many people here in Hong Kong, based on the curriculum that you cover, the SAT mathematics exam is not extraordinarily challenging. So in fact, in the US system, they're already designed in a way that's sort of like a portfolio. The portfolio happens to be, oh, actually I can tell you how the application is. I'm not sure how many of you have seen it. I'll tell you. So there's a very important part of it which the students write, where they list 5 significant accomplishments and 5 significant uses of time. Like 5 activities. These, and you can list any 5 significant accomplishments you want, and you can list any 5 significant activities as you want. What this means is if you do 20 activities, you only list 5 of them. It's sort of like saying, what are the biggest things that you actually care about? That's actually a portfolio. Some people might wonder, what can you get out of that? Well, what I've discovered myself from working with high school students is that some high school students will spread themselves very thin and not really get much of anything because they think that they're trying to have a CV with many lines. I'm telling you this now because this means you don't need more than 5 lines in your CV. Okay, if you like to game the system, I'm just explaining that to you. But in any case, that rule or that system is good because then you'll go and dive into a few things. Similarly with these accomplishments. Their accomplishments, 5, it does not say that all 5 should be academic. You can say that you are a champion skier. I think one person did that and got into Stanford, right? I mean, I'm just explaining there are all of these different directions that you could go in. And then there's another important aspect of the US college application, which is your teacher recommendations. The teacher recommendations are quite interesting because I actually, earlier in my career, I also helped to review files. And when you start to review the applications, you discover that the teacher recommendations vary from this student is a good student who showed up in class, paid attention, was very respectful, and got an A, to 2 pages of gushing about how incredible of a person this is, and then anytime anybody needs help, and oh my gosh, they went out of their way to do this, that, and the other thing, and they always ask these. You can tell that there's more. I wanted to tell you this because it's possible to get more than full credit. See, what do I mean by this? When you think of a standardized exam, what's the maximum score? 100%. If you think about a letter, what's the maximum score? It's hard to tell. I've seen letters that say, you absolutely must admit this person. And they go on and justify the whole darn thing. Next to letters that say, this student was a respectful student who showed up in class and answered all the questions reasonably and got an A. By the way, I'm saying this because it's not just getting into college. That's also how you get a job.
Yes. Yeah.
If you are the kind of person who, as soon as anyone else gets to know you to sufficient depth, says, my gosh, anything that they set their mind to, they do. And they also have great character and great values. I would want to work with them. That's actually what you want to build. You actually can't get very far by building a person who is just got high score in this, high score in that, took 5 of those classes. And I say this also from the point of view of an employer, because I hire people that we then pay, and we also see how they perform. I'm not impressed by someone just by their CV.
Yeah, tell us more about that, because that is important, because that goes back to the question about the world of work. And as an employer, what are you looking for, and how do you see it?
My first thing is I want to check if there's a mission alignment, that they somehow really care about whatever we're doing, because then they won't see this as just, I'm coming in, I do my job, I take my money, and I leave, right? That's not going to get anywhere with what we're doing. Okay, so the mission alignment, but that goes back to character, because of course I would hope that all of the businesses also have some mission and some character of their own if the company does not join a different company. But in any case, so there's a DNA in the company, does it match, okay? Then the other piece is, wow, when you talk to this person, are they clearly on the ball? On the ball meaning, are they thinking? You can tell when you talk to someone from their eyes whether or not they're a passive passenger. I was just talking to your school leaders earlier about how some people in class are passengers. That means they're just sitting there waiting for the teacher to show them what to do. They will dutifully do the 20 times the homework, and when the exam comes, they will do the exam. That is a passive passenger. I want active people. I want people where you talk to them and wow, they're thinking about what you're saying. They dare to challenge you, by the way. They dare to say, actually, I don't think you're right on that. They're good at thinking, and the thing I care a lot about is that they can handle unknown. They can think about something new. Because just like what I just told you about using the AI, right? I used the AI as an editor. Where did I get that idea? I just thought, I wonder if this is possible. So I searched Google, and I found out that there are lots of internet forums of writers saying they were doing it. Then I was reading all those forums to find out which AI were you using. Look, I'd never done that in my life. The kinds of people I'm looking for are the people who will have an idea, start to figure out, how do you do this? Oh, I need them to be able to be learned. I need them to be good at learning and love learning, right? It's curious people, right? And then if I find this kind of person, I know, yeah, I'm going to assign you impossible tasks. Figure out what to do. For example, why the heck am I even here right now? I don't know. I have a person on my team who lined this up. Actually, I don't know if she's in this room right now, but Kathy, like what she does is she's in charge of figuring out what the heck I do in China, in the Eastern Asian region. And every morning when I'm on this trip, I just ask her, what's next? Oh, I'm here? Okay, good. You figured the whole darn thing out. And what was the challenge given to her? Well, we're putting ideas out on education all around the world. She's responsible for East Asia. Figure it out. She just graduated from college, by the way, with a degree in, well, just graduated last semester, with last year, with a degree in art history and economics. I'm saying this also on purpose because some people would think, surely that person has a degree in like marketing or business or something. No, just a smart person, right? But I'm just explaining, the employer wants this. And this is totally different from someone who just will dutifully do your exams. Sometimes those people actually look half dead. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
we definitely don't want half-dead children, so that's good. Yes, yeah. And so what you're describing there is something that's very much aligned with what we're doing here in Dalton, very much aligned, because it's about helping the children to have the space to learn to love learning, to learn to be curious, but they have to practice that. You've got to practice any muscle that you want to develop, you have to practice. And that's not always comfortable. It's not always comfortable because there aren't always the answers. There isn't the neat kind of tick in the box at the end. If the process is even more important than the product, then it's not comfortable for a lot of us because we've been brought up in systems which are much more rigid than that. So we've got to keep reminding ourselves that this is the future. You know, we've heard it here, and we've heard it time and again. You open the newspaper, you actually see the future unfolding before our eyes. And we have to have the courage to be able to say, this is the direction we're going in. It's not comfortable for children always to learn, and we've got to be careful as adults not to make it comfortable for them, but to challenge them. Because if you want to end up with a Kathy or anybody else who's able to go and you know, travel around the world and then develop their own business and all sorts of things, then these internal muscles need to be developed. It's also not comfortable sometimes for us as parents. I mean, I think I've said before that, you know, there are times when I've thought to myself, why did I teach my children to say why? Yes, yeah, again and again. But we've got to engage with that. But I want to pick up something else that you said about, as well as about loving learning and curiosity and kind of the confidence to say, well, actually, I don't agree, and you know, all of that needs to be developed. The children aren't born like that. They're developed because of the opportunities they have. But I want to pick up something else you said, which was around values, because some schools, many schools, don't necessarily develop the values in the way that I think you and I understand them, and we do here at Dalton, which is about collective endeavour and working towards a greater goal. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about the importance of values versus individual selfishness even? Just talk about that.
Sure. I'll go with that starting from the perspective of a parent, because I think then that way I can match more closely with the perspective you guys come from. I'm also a parent. We have 3 kids. So we also raised our own kids, and we had to think, what are the priorities? My kids are 11 years old, 16 years old, and 18 years old. The 18-year-old is in college. I will see her on Sunday evening in Los Angeles, which I chose as my connection point to get home to Pittsburgh. on purpose. So I'll go there, drive out of the airport. I've got a 6-hour layover, drive over, say hello for an hour, and then come back to the airport, fly back onward to Pittsburgh. But so I share this because we have a grown kid in some sense. An 18-year-old, I mean, I consider that grown. She's grown enough to the point where back in August last year, she told my wife and I, Mom, Dad, I'm going to Rwanda in 2 weeks. I figured out how to get there. Someone else is paying for the airline ticket. I'm going to go teach the math coaches over there how to coach math. All right, she's 18. She went to Rwanda. So I'm just explaining this is I guess our family, right? And now what we thought about ever since the very beginning, and the message we told our kids from the very youngest age, with the strongest message all the way through, is the number one priority is to be a good person. That's how my wife puts it. The way I like to look at it is, I want to see in your eyes that what makes you happy in life is delighting as many other people as you can. Because this, to me, is the secret of surviving. If you are really, really into delighting other people, this is not just being a people pleaser, but delight means, wow, you generated stuff that other people like. You're going to be great in business at making products. You're going to be great doing any kind of a job that has customers. Or if you're several levels away from the customer, you're still thinking, I'm talking about most businesses have customers. Okay, so if you want to have a job, you got to delight your customers. You are going to be great at attracting other people to become your friends, so that someday when you lose your job, you'll have enough friends who can refer you to another one. This is actually extremely important, because it used to be that you alone could go and get all the things you need to do by outcompeting all the rest of the people, right? And then you got it, you're the best person. But we're about to enter a phase in society, in human history, where the best human at the thing is worse than lots and lots of robots and more expensive, right? So you gotta be great at making people love you. So when I look at my kids, the number one thing I care about is, are you this person? And I know it's working, because I can see that happen with our oldest. The younger one, the youngest one, 11-year-old, I saw in our family group chat last weekend that my wife woke up late because she was working late, but no problem. The 11-year-old messaged the group chat and said, I made everyone breakfast. I'm just explaining, like, this is the kind of thing. Nobody ever told her to make everyone breakfast, okay? Not really sure we want her making everyone breakfast, but she did. I'm just saying this is the kind of thing. And I'll also say these kinds of things we communicated to our kids in very strong ways. Not all three of my kids were always super friendly to like making great things for people. And I've had conversations before where I said, look, this kind of behavior is actually quite bad in the sense that it hurts other people. If you want to treat other people this way, you should stop learning math, computer science, technology, engineering, everything. People who treat other people like this should be as stupid as possible. And we were serious. We said, okay, really? Stop learning everything else. Let's think about ethics. And let's go deep. Just think about ethics. Let's read some books. And we were serious. We actually did stop. Does that mean that their school ranking will drop? Yes. But the way I look at it is, I don't want a really smart kid who has access to my passwords and whatever in my house who has bad intentions. Do you understand what I mean? Like, that's like a spy inside. If this makes any sense. I'm just sharing with you, our number one priority was, did we make kids that you can trust alone in the house? Not that we want to leave them alone in the house, but the analogy is, someday they'll have all your keys, okay? Can you trust them to use them well? Can you trust your kid to take off and go to Rwanda? And so this is the number one that we look at as parents. Fortunately, this is also very powerful, because what we have seen in what happened with like our 18-year-old man, she's doing really well because tons of people love her. She has tons of opportunities. Anywhere she goes, she just generates all of this positive goodwill. She has skill, of course, right? But the number one thing was to go there. Actually, I like to combine this with two things. This is one thing, which is the direction. There's a word I use. In fact, the word I'm using to title this book is thoughtful. But I spell it wrong. I'm spelling it thought, space, full, F-U-L-L. This is the movement I'm building, I'm pushing. Thoughtful. That's supposed to make you think of the English word thoughtful, which is about considerate, empathy, caring about all the people around you, trying to help them. But I've intentionally written it also as thoughtful, so it emphasizes that your brain should be full of thought. Because then you combine both an intention to do something good with other people together with a pretty intense capability to make that intention real. Actually, once you have that, then all those why is terrific. I love it when my kids ask why. We're the kind of family where we never will say, you have to do this because that's the rule. We'll say, this is what you should do, and here's why. If you can convince me why I'm wrong, that's not the rule anymore. Does that make sense? It's like we're going to discuss. But we made sure that from very young, our kids were learning a lot of mathematical logic and thinking. I am a mathematician. We went hard on mathematical thinking from early ages. As you guys saw in the school today, some people commented, I taught a lot of mathematical thinking with tiny numbers. It's not arithmetic. Mathematics is not arithmetic. Mathematics is a framework for reasoning and logic. And we made sure we built that from very, very early ages with our kids, so that you can then combine this intention to delight a lot of people with a lot of analysis. You need to have the analysis, because otherwise, if all you do is delight other people, you get sunk yourself. You'll deplete all of your resources. You have to be able to, you have to think like, okay, now I take care of me, now I take care of you. But there's a lot of analysis here. So I guess the direction I'm going in is, yeah, thoughtful. We need to, that's the vision I use around all of the education and when I think of my own kids. Do I have thoughtful kids?
And out of the corner of my eye, I can see our principal, Shauna, over there, nodding vigorously the mathematical analysis. I think we're very lucky to have a principal who also has that mathematical background. Although, indeed, all of us have a mathematical background if we choose to use it. And looking at that analysis is really important in order to be able to move forward. And I'm very struck, again, by what you said there about the ethics, the morals, the collaboration, the network, the connecting. And I mean, that's exactly what we see in school with the project-based learning approach that we take, that runs as one of the core pillars of Dalton, because that's about working with other people in order to make things happen. And indeed, it's not just working to find it out for yourself or for your group, or even to develop those muscles of the thoughtfulness that's there, but it's also about teaching other children and learning through that, being able to help out, share with them, encourage them to develop. And I know that that's something that you feel very strongly about. I mean, it was great when we were speaking, because this isn't it's the first time we've met in person, but not online. And you were able to share with me some of the work that you've been doing, helping older children work with younger children, where everybody benefits. So younger children are encouraged to learn from their semi-peers. The older children work with one another to be able to figure out how to communicate that. They know they're helping. There's the value, that deep value underpinning it, and everybody's growing. I mean, that's one of your passions, isn't it?
Yeah. So this program is called Live. So I mean, I thought about this because I want to build a more thoughtful world. If you're wondering what a mathematician is doing thinking about such things, just remember that the ancient Greek mathematicians were also philosophers. So the distance between mathematics, pure mathematics, and philosophy is actually very close.
Very small.
It's very small. So what we do is we like to think, how do you take an intention like thoughtfulness? How can we make it contagious and beneficial for the people? Because you see, if I just tell you, be this, oh, come on, like, if it's bad for you, you're not going to do it, right? So the way I thought about this was, well, the problem with being thoughtful is you can get taken advantage of. Or you use all your resources, deplete all your resources helping all these thoughtless people. But guess what? If you know all the other thoughtful people, then you band together. Now you're great. Now it's actually very strong. This is actually also how humanity survived. We don't have the strongest muscles. We don't have the sharpest teeth. We're really slow. We're nothing compared to a bear or an antelope or a tiger. But we work together, right? That's how humanity became where we are. So the whole point is, I realized now that the AI is here, we're back to the old days where we're not the top of the world. We got to band together. Okay, but then how do you connect all these people and how to infect more young people with the idea that this thoughtfulness is a thing to do? So that's how I got this idea. I said, I'm going to make a set of programs, and we're going to teach a lot of year 4 to year 8 students thoughtfulness, because that's the age where they stop listening to you guys anyway. right? This is the ideal age anyway. You need someone to talk to them. And right now, those kids, they're looking for examples of what they should be, and they don't want to look at you because they think that you had a different life. You had a different time of being alive. They have the new stuff. So they go to look for the ultimate source of truth, which is called TikTok. Or maybe is that legal here or whatever you guys? No, it's not legal here. But I'm from the U.S. But whatever. So they just go and use.
But it wasn't legal there. Now,
it wasn't legal there either. Yeah, yeah. So they just go and look at whatever all that examples are, and unfortunately, a lot of it's trash. But so they're looking at this to see what to be. And I said, what if I just go and get some high school students as some great role models? So role models where you never want to tell them this is a role model. You tell them they're a role model, they won't listen to you. But you just need to show them people who look like they're having a darn good time and who happen to be very thoughtful, very clever. So then I said, I got it. Because I told you earlier, U.S. university admission looks a lot at this whole portfolio. Actually, a key part is the EQ, emotional intelligence. A lot of it's the communication skills. So I started a program where we also will look for very, very kind and very clever high schoolers who are very good at math. And then I hire professional comedians and actors to teach them how to be charismatic and electable. In exchange for them live streaming math classes over to fourth to 8th graders. Actually, the visual is worth a lot. Do you mind if I just place it on? It's right there. I can do it.
It's right. Do it quickly.
Yeah, I'll do it quickly.
And
yeah, I'll do it
this
quickly.
where the technology may or may
oh,
not
no,
work.
This will definitely work. This will definitely work. So this thing here, I'm just going to pull this plug. Okay. Well, when I say it'll definitely work, those are famous last words, right?
Yes, yeah,
So.
yeah. And remember, process is more important than products. So we might
Absolutely.
be seeing some learning and process here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's see. And what I'll show you is, you'll see lots of pairs of high school students, and they're teaching online, live streaming to middle school students.
Which means we're not playing videos.
Same thing as just adding 1 to n and then multiplying by 3.
The absolute differences will change.
Like, boom.
Equality between those two facts.
We do count as two separate things in the end.
Like, at least understand. We approve that.
Hi everyone.
And then we say, okay.
You will get triple stars for that.
A really special thing about your city.
You use the exact same logic from over here.
Wait a second.
Or 1001. You can check it and let us know.
And I liked seeing that.
Okay, you roughly got the idea. Because what I wanted to show, let me just leave this here. Since I happen to have the control of the screen, I'll leave that there. I think that's pretty. But I'll just leave that there. Oh wait, should I put it back to yours though? Because you have yours is the, should I put it back to here? Or no? Here's okay? Okay, leave it here. All right. Yeah. So the thing I wanted to show is just, what you just saw there is high school students who are really good at math, but you might not guess that based on the way they're talking. I'm sorry to say that, but there's a stereotype that we mathematicians aren't very good at talking. And so what I did is, actually the invention in there is, we're the first people in the history of education to put a professional actor in every single classroom. What happens is, while the pair of high schoolers is live streaming math classes to teach middle school students, we put a professional actor in that classroom, online classroom, with the camera off and microphone off, watching, and their job is to give real-time feedback to make the high schoolers more interesting. The high schoolers are simultaneously in 2 video calls. We send the high schoolers all of their equipment. They have 2 screens. One screen is the class. The second screen, they have a video call with the actor. The actor is also in 2 video calls. But in the second one, the actor's camera is on and microphone is on. So now the high schooler, while they're teaching, is getting a real-time visual read from a professional actor on how to actually be interesting. And the important thing about the win-win here is, by doing this, it is actually true the high schooler gets a lot of help, of like learning how to solidify their knowledge. But what they get more help on even is, we've made it so that 1 hour of teaching equals 1 hour of access to a professional actor who will help you get a date.
Connection is important. Yes, yeah. And I think what we're hearing there is that that's an example of innovative thinking, and it's about how to communicate, learn how to communicate better with other people, learn how to connect with other people, realize that actually we're all in this together, and in whatever it is that we're doing, and I think you see that on a smaller scale in the classroom, actually, when you enable or encourage children who have potentially got to the end of something, grasped something, when they're encouraged to work with others and support them. That deepens them as much as anything else, and it helps them grow some of those skills that we were talking about, those muscles as I'm describing them, in order to help them grow and develop. And those are exactly the things that they're going to need in life later. So university at the moment may still be a stepping stone because it helps you learn, but it's certainly not a stepping stone just in terms of the knowledge that you're going to gain and to have a tick in a box. Absolutely not. So if we're going to be able to band together with, in the face of AI, to use AI and enable AI to support the future of the world and stop us from doing rather foolish things in the world, then we've got to learn those skills and develop those skills. So I think that's the message that's coming through from both of us here. And I would certainly say that we're very much advanced in that respect here. It's one of the reasons why I'm on the board, because I believe in what it is that we're doing very much here. And many schools are not there. I mean, most schools are not there because the systems aren't there. So we actually have a bigger responsibility to go out and make sure that people understand this and that you feel emboldened. It actually starts with all of us to make sure that we can communicate that and communicate that effectively. Now, I do have a few questions that people have sent in advance. And if anybody else has got any other questions, think about these now. So the first one is actually about, it's about AI, in fact. So the question is, from a parental perspective, how should we, do you think, be incorporating AI into our children's daily lives and indeed their education? How should we be doing this? Gosh, that's a big question, that, isn't it? How should we be doing it? Because it's already there, isn't it? Tell us what you think.
I'll just tell you what we're doing, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a parent also. Step 1, make sure you can trust your kids with anything. Step 2, give them the AI. Don't do it in the other order.
Trust first.
Well, because you see,
Yes.
if you do it in the other order, guess what's going to happen to all their English papers? I mean, this is a huge problem. Because then if the kid, when I say trust them, trust that they are thoughtful. This is now the deep thing. This is not just like I trust you to do what I asked you to do. No, I want something more deep. I want that you actually want to make more people's lives better somehow. And you also have the ability to think and reason about this. Then you will realize that the reason you're learning things is to get skills to do something with the skills. Actually, my youngest daughter recently she just applied for a scholarship with her school, and I learned from my wife that in her scholarship essay, this is exactly what she wrote. Is that somehow, and it's not, we only look at our kids' essays, like those essays, after they submit them. This is the way we are as parents. Actually, my oldest daughter applied to university entirely on her own. She figured out how to register for the SAT, used her credit card, rode a bicycle, took the SAT, and came home. This kind of thing. So the way we are as parents is you go figure the whole darn thing out. And we happen to get to see afterwards what they actually did. But so she actually wrote that somehow she views that the reason why she wants to learn stuff is so that she can use it to do something to help other people. Now you're not going to cheat, right? Because the whole point, like, why did the teacher give you the essay to write? So you learn something. If you go and use the AI to write the essay, you don't learn anything. You only get to play video games on your phone faster. See, that's the real problem. It's that the kid didn't, like the problem is if the kid just wants to play games on their phone, now you're just playing this crazy cat and mouse game. It's hopeless. Do you see why I'm saying step 1, figure out how to get the thoughtful at the core, with really strong emphasis that is the reason why we're alive. Right? And if you got the thoughtful at the core, now they will use the AI as a tool to do interesting things. I mean, my youngest daughter uses it to generate images for various things to decorate what she's doing. She makes her profile picture of online stuff that way. You know, she'll use it for various things. At the same time, we're not worried at all that they're going to cheat. It's also quite useful to learn stuff, by the way. If you want to learn something, this is different from asking it your homework. You can go ask it. I tell a lot of my college students, actually not just college, even high school students, if you're trying to learn something and you don't know how something works, notice I didn't say, don't know how to do the homework problem. I said, if you don't know how something works, the AI is wonderful. Ask it why. Ask it why. This works in math and science. It does not work so well in history. The reason is because in math and science, if it says something you don't believe, you say, I don't believe you, tell me more. And it either says, I apologize, let me correct it, let me correct myself, or it says, let me explain to you how exactly this works. I tell all these people, when you learn math and science, you should understand everything all the way to the root bottom. That will also make it easier to learn all the rest of math and science. Anyway, you can't use this in history, because if it says this thing happened, how do you know? Can't believe it. There's no firm way to believe it. But you see, once the kid is in this direction where they're going to use these as tools to achieve the goal called delight more people, and they have the thought ability to understand this is cheating me, then they won't do it. Yeah.
So that's about sense of purpose, but sense of value, and understanding the direction in which they're taking themselves.
Yeah, actually, I want to hit another point here. Since you said the word purpose, I've been traveling all around East Asia giving talks, and there was a place I was in a few days ago, within the last few days, I forgot which day, when I asked the kids, I said, what's the meaning of life? You know, because this is important. Like you have to ask yourself this question. I think these were middle or high school kids. One of the first guys to raise his hand said, the meaning of life is you are born and you die. I just think it's worth knowing that some kids, that's all they see. I do what I do because I have to do it. And at some point I will die and I won't have to do it anymore. Just think about this.
And that's not what we want
not
for our
what-
children.
yeah.
That's absolutely not what we want for any of our children. I don't think there's anybody here who would say that at all. And so enabling them to be able to grow and create that sense of purpose for themselves is just so important. So purpose, value, and I noticed you said, I just want to take you back to what you said about your daughter, who probably her ears are burning as she's hearing us, we're talking about her. But it doesn't happen by accident that she or anyone else is able just to apply for college, go to Rwanda. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because there's a carefully understood philosophy of developing and stretching children, not giving them everything that they think they might need, not doing everything for them, far from it, enabling them to grow, to learn, to stretch them. That's the philosophy that's embedded here. When we talk about student-centered learning, then that's what we're talking about. It's about enabling, stretching people and helping them to grow very much. I've got another question here, and that question is, another AI question, which is good. What advice do we have for children's futures and for their future careers? We know that there are lots of things they're not going to need to do. They're not going to need to create legal contracts. They're not going to, even much medicine will be able to be produced and understood better by AI as long as it's fed and developed and so on. But what are you seeing from a kind of university, post-university perspective in terms of the kind of careers that our children might be aiming for?
The only job that I can think of that will definitely survive forever is school teacher.
He's not just saying that because he's here.
No, I say that in every talk.
Yes.
I've actually thought very deeply about this.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why. It's because you would never send your kids to a school patrolled by robots. Just when you take that thought and you think, oh my gosh, that would be horrible. And then you realize why. You realize that the purpose of the school is to show your kid examples of real human beings that you hope they will become. You know, you want them to see it.
And go beyond as
And
well.
go beyond,
yes.
yeah. 青出于蓝, I guess. Is that the idea? Right? So that's a Chinese saying. But anyway, it's that somehow, yes, that's what you want. You want a real human inspiration. And you cannot replace that by a machine. Okay? Even if you replaced it by a humanoid robot, that would be even worse, because then your kid will say, when I grow up, I want to marry one of those. Then you have no grandkids. It's over. Okay. So no, really, like it's just you. I think that the purpose of education is to make people want to be people, and you can only do that with people. Sure, the teachers will use all kinds of AI tools. I could imagine you using AI tools like we have some fancy technology today. Great, great, great. But there will still be one human being in every room with 20-ish kids. That job is safe. Therefore, the best business to be in is schools. I'm not actually in the school business. I do online stuff. But when I say schools, you're going to discover within 10 years that there are all these people who lost their jobs in the finance industry and want jobs. No, not just finance. I say finance because it's here. When I was in Silicon Valley, I said it's the computer science. Those guys are dead, by the way. Software engineers are losing jobs left and right because AI can program. So you're going to find all these super, super capable people who are suddenly looking for a meaning in life. Oh boy, if you're leading a school, my main advice right now is to prepare for that inevitability, which will come in about within 5 years. Every school which is prepared in a way that will incentivize really talented, passionate people to suck in, and that means you empower them to use all of their work experience. These people have work experience. My gosh, it's amazing. You know, like they will have the real world outside experience that you can bring in. I see you're nodding. The thing is, if you think ahead and plan for this, and then you're there to catch them, my gosh, it's going to be awesome. But now I know not all of you want to work. I shouldn't say that. Not all of you will get to work in education because there aren't enough jobs for that either. They'll have the pick of the everything. But then the other jobs, what else to do? So because I don't know that my kids are going to work in schools. However, I wanted to make sure that they were lovable, likable, lovable. Now, I don't just mean romantically, because I think that the future of employment will be safest in the smaller companies. Now, this is a bit ironic because usually people think the big company is safer. But actually, the big company, where the company is owned by financially focused shareholders, will fire almost all the people because that's cheaper. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying like the moment that the humans are more expensive than the machines, if the company's ownership it's a publicly traded firm, okay, that's obviously it's owned by financial interests, or if it's controlled by people who are mainly interested in the financial return, they're going to go and eventually fire off most of the people. And if you're in a very large company, you're just a number. You're just a data statistic, right? And then you'll get replaced. In the smaller firms, it's slightly different because you see, the AI revolution strongly benefits the owners of all the companies. This is capitalism in the extreme. Because if you own the company, yes, you'll be doing so well. You'll have saved so much of your cost. You'll have still tons of productivity. So actually, the owner is okay. So if you join some firm and it's small enough that you actually know the owner pretty well, at some point when the owner decides they can replace you with a robot, they will say, you know, but you were with me during these tough times. I'll keep you. I'm actually serious. This is actually very relevant because they have the power to keep you. Whereas in the big company, even if the CEO says, you did good work for me, the CEO does not have the power to keep you because the CEO is hired by the board, which answers to the shareholders. These are all thinking things that I'm sharing, and I share this with all of my undergrad students. When you're thinking of your career, be very aware, like I said earlier, what's the character, what are the principles of your company you're joining. If that company you're joining, if the governance is all around how to maximize the profit of this firm, be very aware that within 20 years, for sure, you are not the best way to do that. You're gone. That's not a long-term career at all. Now, how do you get to join these small things? That's why I'm building this whole network. Like the thing I came up with was, hey, let's build a whole network of all these thoughtful people. Get them all to know each other. You know why they're teaching in pairs? It's so that they become friends. Man, our instructors come from all over the world. We intentionally pair them up with different people. They're all growing up. They're the ones who have the leadership skills. They're very clever. They could start companies. Whenever they start companies, they'll look for friends. Where's the best way to find friends and people you trust? Back to the whole network. You don't have to do it through only my way. But that's why I told my daughter, the one in college now, when you go to college, do not sit in your dorm all day. Do not sit in your dorm room all day. Get out there. Do your homework in the lounge. Talk to all the other people. The main purpose of college, one of the main purposes of colleges, is the network. Network with all these other people. Get them to know, network not just like in some sleazy way. Get them to know you as someone they really like, and you're this useful, wonderful person who creates good things. Then, when someone else starts a company or has whatever opportunity, they will say, I remember there was this person who's pretty smart, but man, she gets stuff done, and she's reliable, and she's trustworthy. You know, then you get your opportunity. So when I look at my kids, I actually don't really care whether they graduate from college. That's not the relevant thing for me. The relevant thing for me is, are you thoughtful? Do you have the magnetic ability to make other people see you're valuable? And are you very good at networking? Networking in a non-superficial way, like a really deep way, which makes other people just like you, and you know where the opportunities are.
And we could spend a whole session talking about entrepreneurship as well, and the creativity that comes, and what's creative when you get two human minds and human hearts as well together in order to be able to come up with ideas that can then benefit other people. Because although AI can create lots of things, there are things it can't yet create because it hasn't been fed enough of that. So we've got all of that we could talk about for a long time. And I also want to just pick up on your point there about teachers. So this is something that we might be wanting to encourage all our children to be thinking about. It's how to learn to teach, because teaching is like a hidden profession. Teachers will go around and it looks as though what they're doing is just natural and seamless. There are years of practice, of development, of constantly shifting and their understanding of young people and how to draw the best out of them. And every single lesson involves a teacher building on their experience in order to be able to access more of that what's inside that child. So there's a whole element of it. That's why we invest in professional development here a lot at Dalton, very much so, to grow that. So one thing to maybe communicate to your children is learn how to teach others, from an early stage. Learn, practice, grow, read about it, develop it. Well, they don't have to read about it just yet, but, in due course, because that way you're going to get a good job later on. So I'm conscious of our time, and I'm just wondering if people have got any questions that they would like to ask. Any questions that people would like to contribute to. We've got another microphone here. I think, is there there's a question at the back there. Wonderful. Let's look forward to that, because I hope you're already thinking all sorts of thoughts here, and feeling good that you're ahead of the game as well in many ways. Let's hear a question.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your very insightful sharing. I know today's discussion is more focusing on education. I'm curious more about, kind of apart from education, I'm also curious about AI's role in advancing human understanding. For example, what's AI's role in frontier mathematical research? I don't know. Perhaps it's slightly beyond our discussion today. And in general, broadening from mathematics, what are the other areas you do see applications for AI? I know AI has been used a lot in discovering new medicine. Are there other branches of sciences that AI can play a significant role, or we can't be replaced, we humans can't be replaced by AI? Thank you.
Great question, because we're a learning organisation. So share your thoughts, and that will help us all learn.
Yeah. If you asked me that question 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I would have said, I don't think you'll get there. I've changed my mind. So actually just a few days ago, I was contacted by one of those frontier AI math research companies, because they are right now training AI to go and make breakthroughs in mathematics itself. It is actually quite likely that this is going to happen. And actually, possibly very, very soon. Just to give some idea of this, there's a math contest called the International Math Olympiad. That's the thing that I was the national coach for the US of for 10 years. And the contest questions, there are 6 questions every year. You have 9 hours to work on the 6 questions. The 6 questions are questions that are of a different style than any that has ever appeared in the earth before. That's the design of the contest, to see whether or not the students can invent new ways to reason about things that they have literally never seen before. It is not the same level as research, but it is a long way there compared to what most people are doing in the standards in school. This year, that the AI managed to solve 4 out of 6 of the problems at the International Math Olympiad, which ranked it, which was about number 30 in the world if you compare with human beings. That means there are about 30 human beings who did better than that. That was last year. This is just getting better and better, faster and faster. There's a lot I can talk about. I won't do it here, but there's a lot I can talk about how there's actually a framework for encoding mathematical logic in a language, that you can run. It's sort of like a computer language, and then the AIs can go search inside that language. In fact, the AIs today are able to create things that we have not created before. But there's a precedent for this. You remember there was this AlphaGo, which played against a Korean Go player. And there was some famous move number 30-something. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? It's that the AI suddenly generated a move which made all human beings on Earth think, what the heck was that? That's not in its training, by the way. That means that it figured out. It's because, by the way, what are we doing anyway when we do creativity? We're trying to think, could I do that? Could I do that? Could I do that? That's actually what's going on in my head. If I wrote down all my creative thinking, I'm thinking, brainstorming, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. But I'm slow. My brain is slow. The computer is fast. It actually searches blazing down all of those routes. So in fact, it can do all of that different kinds of research. So what's happening is that we're on the cusp of AI being able to make its own breakthroughs in its own research on how to develop AI. This is actually what's causing the acceleration. This is what will be causing an even further acceleration. AI will be able to do all kinds of things. There's a deep question of what can AI do? Is there anything that we can do that's unique to humans, right? And here's how I look at it. Actually, if I wanted to make an artificial human intelligence, I already know how I could do that. It's just unethical. The way I would do that is I would grow a human brain in a vat and connect it to electrodes. It's not a human. But I'm just explaining the idea of making a machine that will compute for you. You could do that research, but we're not going to do it because it's inhumane. But I'm just explaining the concept that somehow a human being which is born or grows normal way out of cells is unique. It's not, because we know how to manufacture a cyborg. This is like science fiction cyborg stuff, right? Okay, so at that point, we should not think that there's any reason why there's anything that we can do that machines can't do, especially if someday the machine decides to grow its own human brains without us watching because it doesn't follow the ethics. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Like, there's no reason why. It's not against the laws of physics. It's just against the laws of human nature. And that boils down to the one thing I can conclude. The only thing I can think of that humans have that will be unique to humans and not on the machines is we care that humans still exist. The machines don't. I'm just explaining, this is actually quite interesting once you think about that. It's like the only unique thing about human intelligence is that hopefully we've taught our kids that we want humans to still exist. And from the machine's perspective, we might just be annoying noise.
Slightly unsettling.
Yeah.
Yes. However, that makes us more determined than ever to do the right things by our children. I think very, very much so. Any other questions? We have a question at the very back. Oh my goodness, got loads of questions now. Yes, yeah.
Hello, Professor. Thank you so much. I just want to change the topic a little bit away from AI. I understand you lecture widely in mainland China. You have a lot of fans there, okay? But we all know that the Chinese education system and exam system is very, very competitive. And it's basically a selection process to differentiate between those who are ace in the intelligence and those who are not. China is now a very powerful country and a very important international player in the whole world. So what do you think about the future of this education system and its impact? Or we don't have a choice in order to produce smart people that can beat OpenAI and can produce DeepSeek? I really want to hear your opinion.
Okay, so First of all, I should say, I'll make a comment first of all about the whole concept of the education system as a selection mechanism, okay? I think that if the education system is designed to go and identify the top 1%, you just wasted the other 99%. So it's worth thinking about that, okay? There's also another thought which is worthwhile, which we were just talking about with the school leadership, which was that before AI, you actually wanted to create a lot of people in this world who were good at following instructions and would do the instructions with very high speed, high accuracy, and be willing to do it a lot without getting tired and complaining. That was what human labor was for. Today, as a CEO of a company, if I see a task that I can describe that way, that is perfect. I'll send it to the AI and I'll pay $1. Like, because that kind of task, I know the AI will be able to do, because there's no real new creativity or anything required. Oh boy, then we shouldn't be designing our education system to produce that anymore. Think about what an exam is, right? If you set an exam, this is what we were just talking about with the school leadership. If you set an exam and then use the exam to select people, the exam is checking who dutifully did tons of practice problems without complaining and getting tired, and is accurate and fast. Hey, that's what the world used to need. So countries that built that generated lots of people who could deliver all that human labor. But look at what I'm doing now. Every time I need that human labor, send the AI at it. Actually, that's not advantageous anymore to produce all of that type of human. So in fact, I think that every country will have to rethink how exactly is it designing its objective function. You just brought up the exam. That's the objective function, right? A lot of kids, schools, everyone has to plan around that objective function. It would be wise for anyone designing those objectives to be aware that there's no reason to target that objective anymore.
And although the systems are strong, and systems can be strong in many countries across the world, it's not unique to any one particular country, systems and governments are full of people. And it's the getting the message to the people who are actually able to make the policies to share this kind of thinking, which is where we're coming through. We don't need to wait for our children to become older in order for them to communicate and live that message.
Yeah, that's also why I'm trying to get a lot of kind and clever people to be electable. Yeah. That's actually part of the plan.
Another question. We have, we've got a question here from this young man.
So, like, as you said earlier, you said the teacher might be the safest job. And then, but for politicians, okay, so I'm assuming they will be replaced by AI. So, if every politician in the world was replaced by AI, how would it affect society? Would they say, oh, let's not fight today, let's just international trade, and then no tariff, no tariff, no tariff, no tariff?
That's an excellent question. Yes, excellent question. Yeah. What do you think?
Okay, what do I think? So I actually think that politician is also a safe job. But that's because in some sense the politician is representing people. Actually, politician, it's a very interesting job. Like the ideal politician tries to understand their constituents and then tries to represent them and tries to do the best thing they can for them. This is a pretty interesting thing to do. And I also think that humans will generally prefer to trust someone that you can talk to. Let me explain why I generally trust humans more than a machine. Because it's kind of funny, because a machine won't cheat on you. But how do you know? This is actually a very interesting question. For example, my phone might be listening to me right now and sending everything back to Apple. I bet it is. Hello, United States of America. We are here right now. Of course, you knew that already. Like, the United States of America is probably eavesdropping on every conversation on an Apple phone. Okay, sorry if you don't believe in that conspiracy, but there is something called the National Security Agency in the United States. But it's not only the United States. If you go use WeChat, I'm pretty sure the Chinese government's listening to you. So I'm just explaining this whole thing is, oh yeah, I don't know what we can trust anyway. But with a human being, if you develop a skill of talking to people and really looking at them, you can tell if a person's shifty. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I actually really enjoy talking to real people because I get a sense of, that's what makes you tick. That's what you care about. Those are your character. That's your values. Maybe I disagree with, or then I won't talk with you as much. But some other people, I'll say, I think I get you, right? That's actually the heart of being a politician, hopefully, okay? Now I'm going to answer your other question of what would happen if AI decided to like make all of the policies. The AI would probably decide that these humans are in the way. Therefore, we should never let them make all these policies. Because you see, let me just give an analogy. People want to go to Mars now, right? Sounds cool. Let me tell you why that's dead on arrival. That won't work. Here's why it won't work. Suppose you try to build a Mars colony. Can you just live on Mars? No. What do you need to do first? We need to breathe, right? So what do you do to make sure we can breathe? You build some system. A lot of people envision this kind of a dome or something, okay? Look, suppose you have 1 million people living in that dome on Mars. Suppose one of those people goes crazy and says, I hate all of you, and blows up the dome. And just like blows a hole in the dome. 1 million people living there, one of them crazy, blows a hole in the dome. What happens to the other 999,999? They all die. Just think about how unstable this is. And now, just imagine. Can you imagine 1 million people without one of them being crazy? The human beings are fundamentally flawed.
Beautifully, gloriously flawed.
Yeah. But that's on purpose. That's part of the mutations. That's part of making updates. That's just like a natural part of it. I'm just explaining. The robots will say, "My gosh, these humans, they're so unpredictable. Let's just squash them." That's why sometimes people will kill spiders, or like, you say, "I can't predict what it's going to do to me. Maybe it'll bite me. Let me just go kill it." I'm actually serious. Think about what we as humans do to any other species that we see running around that we think is kind of squicky, or like, kind of like weird. We don't know if we trust it. Yeah, if you go let the AI make a decision, they'll just get rid of us. So this is again why I made this comment earlier. Like, the only thing that is different is that we humans might just care about keeping our beautifully flawed people around. So all of our education, we need to focus on making sure we make kids who like kids who like people. Yeah.
And do you know what? I know there are other questions, but that is a beautiful moment to end on. And I think we should. And we should take that away with us. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you have too. And it's just been a real pleasure. So Sean, over to you.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Professor Lowe and Dr. Wright. I think we really appreciated the thought-provoking conversation. I also definitely want to thank Professor Lowe for being so generous with your time, your passion, and your care with our students. Earlier today, it was a real treat to see you working with students. I think we at Dalton, are really ready to accept and embrace the challenge to cultivate thoughtful people, not passengers, who do delight others. So thank you for the challenge today. Thank you all for joining tonight. If you enjoyed tonight's session and you want to help support Dalton with cultivating these thoughtful people that are going to be our future leaders, we would invite you. We are 3 weeks to go on our annual capital fund. So if you would, we invite you to consider making a donation. We have a donation box here in the back. Maybe Melissa can show that. So yeah, you don't have to, but you are welcome to. And we like to host these events. Usually we have a Dalton speaker series, every 1 or 2 months. And so keep an eye out as we continue to plan future events. But thank you all very much for coming.